Alright, Koji. Koji, this is your time to shine. Koji, you're going to get out of that well in this video, and you are going to defeat Fuminori and Saya. That is what we are going to do. You're getting out of that well, and you're stopping the two of them. We cannot let Saya spread. She gave the dandelion explanation in the previous episode, so now we need to stop her before she chooses to spread like a dandelion. He has been buried alive. His world is the silence and cold of the grave. Ever since his voice gave out, and he lost the strength to scream, no coherent thought has passed through Koji's mind. Perhaps this is his brain's way of protecting him from despair. Instead, he dreams. Images flash before his eyes. Random, unconnected scenes from his 20 years of life. Not all are happy times. There are sad, painful memories as well. But even these are pleasantly warm compared to the death that is now encroaching upon him. He dreams of mountains. His older brother once took him hunting for insects when he was a child. They sealed their caught butterflies in a plastic bag, only to later find themselves holding a bag of tiny corpses. I think it's kind of funny. He dreams of his lover. They met at a mixer, where he'd been the only one to realize that she couldn't hold her liquor. After she had too much to drink, he looked after her while she vomited in the back alley. They toasted each other with canned juice, and then he dreams that he is diving into a black sea. When he reaches the bottom, he looks up to see the moon shining through the surface of the water. As he gazes up at the circle of light, entranced by its roundness and brilliance, the distant rumbling of an engine reaches his ears. Something still conscious within him tells him that his dream is wrong. That this dream is wrong. Have I ever gone diving at night before? The dots began to connect in his mind, forming a barrier to separate his dreams from reality. What is bothering him? Of course, the sound. The doctor! The doctor's coming! The engine noise gradually fades into a low idling, then abruptly gives way to silence, followed by the sound of a door opening and closing. This isn't a dream. These sounds are real. Understanding comes like a sudden blow. This isn't the bottom of the sea, and that circle of light isn't the moon. It's the mouth of the well. The sun has already risen, and someone is right outside with a car. The last piece falls into place, and he becomes to know Koji once more. Koji shouts, surprised by how easily his voice emerges. His desperation blocks out the pain of his raw throat. He keeps screaming with all of his might. Soon, the echoes in the Kran's well become deafening, and he is no longer certain if his screams have meaning, or if he is just howling wordlessly. Nevertheless, he continues. His only desire is to be heard, lest he die forgotten at the bottom of this well. Come on, Dr. Tanbo! Come on, Dr. Tanbo! Koji's wait is not long, but even a minute feels like an eternity on the edge of despair. Soon, the circle light above him is partially eclipsed by the silhouette of a person staring down into the well. A woman's voice. Koji has heard it somewhere before, but for some reason, he cannot remember to whom it belongs. The silhouette vanishes, restoring the light to a perfect circle. Fear of being left alone again threatens to send Koji into a panic, but his reason has recovered enough to resist. She said she's going to get me out. I haven't been abandoned. While waiting, he gingerly tests his body, which he had forgotten all about until now. His joints ache, and his fingers and toes are numb. But, though exhausted, he's still in one piece. After some time, the silhouette reappears at the top of the well. Koji lacks the confidence to attempt such a feat. His frozen fingers can barely move. What? Wait, you're coming down? Oh, is she gonna carry him up? How strong are you, Dr. Tanbo? After a brief pause, the owner of the voice tosses a knotted climbing rope into the well. He grabs the rope as soon as it reaches him. The tough threads bite into his palm, and relief nearly overwhelms him at the sensation. This is really happening. He's really safe. Now that he's free from despair, questions leap to the forefront of his mind. First among them, who is the savior? The rope shakes as the woman climbs carefully down. The beam from the floodlight slung over her shoulder, pushing back the shadow cast by her body. Soon, she is standing in the same mud as Koji, and he finds himself face to face with...
Sensei!
Oh shit! Oh shit, she looks cool! Koji indeed had not imagined that a savior would turn out to be Dr. Tanbo Ryoko. Of course, it took him a moment to recognize her. Instead of a white gown and tight skirt, she is wearing a heavy leather coat, denim jeans, and boots with no heel. She must have expected a hike through the mountains. Her light is a blocky, all-purpose type of... Wait, what is her hobbies? She definitely has some pretty interesting survivalist hobbies. Her light is a blocky, all-purpose type, featuring side-mounted fluorescent runners in addition to the main floodlight, survival gear, and professional grade by the look of it. Dr. Tanbo says wryly as she gives Koji a once-over. She pulls a flask out of her pocket and hands it to him. She walks around with a flask? Maybe Koji's just old-fashioned, but it doesn't seem appropriate for a young woman, and a doctor at that. Nevertheless, he unscrews the cap and takes a swig, and struggles to keep from coughing as the potent liquor sears his tongue. Can we learn more about who you are? Like, fuck the story about Fuminori and Saya. I want a story about you! Her tone is straightforward and quite serious. Koji can only gape at the doctor, the dark smile on her face doing little to ease his confusion. Is this really Dr. Tanbo? There's no trace of the bookish, mild-mannered woman Koji met at the hospital. Her expression is now set in a hard mask, and her eyes are sharp and wary. In the darkness at the bottom of the well, it is possible, however, unlikely, that the change in her features is due to the ominous shadows cast by her lamp. It's not so easy, however, to explain the change in her demeanor. Sorry, my cat got up. Is he still in the room with me? Oh, hey, Tom. I think he wants to leave. Oh, wait, have you been fed? Ryoko replies brusquely, glaring at Koji like an annoyed professor. Koji still doesn't understand why she acted so quickly, but it's a different part of what she just said that seizes his attention. Also, it seems like Tom's wanting me to pat him. Come on, Tom. Up to your cat tree. Come on. Oh, he wants his son. Hold on. Sorry about this, everyone. Alright, Tom. You want sun? Come on, Tom. I'll help you get sun. Whoop! Alright. Be a good boy. Be a good boy. That's right. He almost died, and at the hands of the man he thought was his best friend. Anger and frustration well up inside of him. He can't forgive Fuminori's betrayal, nor can he forgive himself for his foolishness. And now he has no idea if Tsukuba is safe. Fuminori tried to kill Koji. Could he have done the same to her?
ここで君がいくら殺気だって見たところで始まらん。
Ryoko says irritably, turning away to examine the inside of the well.
何かあったと思ったのなら警察には届けてくれたんですか？
Koji says to her back.
警察だと？
Still engrossed in her examination of the walls, Ryoko laughs scornfully at the idea.
そうか。君はまだそういう形で蹴りがつけら
I
れる
can
もの
hear
だ
him
と思っ
lick
ている
himself
わけ
behind me. Tom is licking himself very loudly.
どういう意味です？
He's a clean boy, though, I will give him that. Annoyed by her condescending attitude, Koji's about to demand answers when she cuts him off with a gesture and shines her light at a corner of the well.
殿君、こいつには気づかなかったのか？
Oh?
は？
In the light of the lamp, Koji sees that some kind of stones are a different shade than the rest of the wall. This must be what Ryoko was looking for. Secret passageway.
気づきませんでした。ずっと真っ暗だったんで。
ふん。
Ryoko's gaze moves slowly along the wall, finally coming to rest on a gap between two of the stones. The hole is just wide enough for an adult to reach into open-handed.
君、いいところに落ちてくれたよ。ひょうたんから困ってやつか。
Oh my god, are they gonna find the doctor? Ryoko says with a grim smile. She wastes no time thrusting her hand into the opening. Okay! After she feels around for a few seconds, Koji hears the thunk of something solid coming together behind the wall.
先生、
Ryoko pulls her hand out and gives the different color stones a gentle push. With a rumble of weight shifting, the stones slide smoothly back into the wall.
こういう仕掛けか。やられたよ。前に来た時は気づきもしなかった。
Okay, she knows more than what she lets on.
前にも来た。
Koji wants answers, but Ryoko ignores him and peers into the opening. In the beam of her floodlight, Koji can see a concrete tunnel leading into the mountain. Can we get some exposition about what's going on here?
私は先に進むが、殿君、君はここに残ることを勧める。
Her warning is utterly devoid of warmth. Considering his options, Koji looks from the tunnel to the rope and back again. He's practically sweating now, thanks to the 190 proof vodka he just drank. But although his feeling has returned to his fingers, he still doesn't have the strength to climb. That said, the thought of being alone in the well again makes him shiver.
一緒に行きます。連れてってください。
まあ好きにしろ。
He's about to see something that he won't be able to unsee. Ryoko steps into the tunnel without looking back, and Koji doesn't hesitate to follow.
前にお会いした時と随分雰囲気が違いますね。
Koji says sarcastically, following Ryoko as she moves cautiously down the tunnel with her light leading the way.
ここは病院じゃない。君は患者じゃない。営業スマイルが必要か？
Hell yeah. You know what? I like this version of Dr. Tanbo. Well, I kind of like her true personality. This is kind of awesome.
じゃあこっちが先生の字ですか？
さあ、どうだかな。どうだっていいことだろ。
Ryoko suddenly stops and stares at the floor. When Koji looks over her shoulder, he sees a dust-covered rope lying coiled up in the middle of the path.
何です？
あの井戸から降りてきたやつの小細工さ。
Ryoko picks up the rope, examines it, and hands it to Koji.
長さは私が使ったロープのほぼ2倍。途中に結び目があって、端は両方とも切断されてる。この両端がつながって輪になってたのさ。
え？
外のどこかにこの輪を引っ掛けて井戸の底まで伝って降りる。その後ナイフで輪を切って井戸の中に引っ張り込めば井戸の底に降りた痕跡は残らない。
That means there might be someone down here. Ryoko shines her light down the tunnel, revealing that it ends in a closed wooden door about 10 meters ahead.
こうやってここに逃げ込んだやつは追っ手の目をくらませたのさ。やられたよ。まんまと騙された。
先生、さっき前にも来たっていうのは。
ああ、君や咲坂君だけじゃない。私も以前、オーガイを追ってこの別荘に来た。
Ryoko says dryly. Whoa! Whoa! She is back in heat! As Ryoko speaks, she opens her coat and pulls out what she had hanging underneath it.
他に出口がないとしたら、奴はまだあの扉の向こう側にいるわけだ。
She is back in fucking heat! At first, Koji thinks that she is holding a steel pipe. Amazed that she would be carrying a weapon, Koji looks closer and is appalled when he realizes what it really is. A gun. And not one of those sleek handguns that he's seen in the movies, but a double-barrel shotgun. The stock and barrels have been sawed down for easier concealment, enhancing its aura brutal efficiency.
何ですかそれ
It's a gun.
ショットガン、12番口径。
Ryoko replies blandly, as though naming a brand of cigarettes.
私にはこいつを持ち歩く資格なんてないし、こんな風に改造するのも銃刀法違反だ。他に質問は？
Holy shit.
そんなもの持ち出して一体どうするつもりです
Who is Ryoko Tanbo? Ryoko looks over her shoulder and gives Koji her most chilling smile yet.
オーガイの正体を初めて知ったとき、私はただの善良な一般市民だった。交通違反すら無縁のね。
The woman whom Koji believed was just a normal doctor waves her sawed-off shotgun menacingly as she continues, her tone sharp and bitter.
あの時にこいつがあったなら、私は多分オーガイをきっちり殺せていただろう。そうなってれば、もしかしたら君たちがこんな災難に巻き込まれることもなかったかもしれない。その点は申し訳ないと思ってるよ。
Koji listens in silence, helpless to do anything but watch as understanding moves farther and farther out of his grasp.
だから、これから私がやることは一切合切。君とその友達が足を突っ込んでる泥沼のありさまを終わらせてやるための手続きだ。
Tanbo has become my favorite character of this entire game. Hands down, Tanbo is my favorite character.
その辺をよく理解して余計な口は突っ込まないこと。いいね。
Koji can only nod weakly in response. With the light in her left hand and the shotgun in her right, Ryoko walks up to the door and takes a deep breath. Then, she kicks the door open, putting her full weight behind the blow. With a disappointingly feeble sound, the door breaks off its hinges and falls into the room. Dust billows like white smoke in the beam of Ryoko's light. The room is large, at least 35 meters square. The tile floor is set with drainage grates, and there's no mistaking the operating table sitting in the middle of the room. Cabinets full of emanoware and drugs line one side of the space, and against the opposite wall stand a writing desk and bookshelves. Those things, Koji recognizes, the mysterious objects cluttering the tables and shelves, however, are beyond his comprehension. Mirrors delicately engraved with complex patterns, grotesque statues and masks that must have been left by a race of savages, tapestries woven in nauseating arrays of color, a crystal ball the size of an infant's head. Any would fetch a hefty price at an antique store, if not for the one thing they all have in common. Every last piece is so loathsome and foul that Koji feels sick just looking at it. It's as though each was designed for the sole sinister purpose of immortalizing its creator's hatred of the world. Rare-looking books of the sort that he found in Ogai's home are piled here and there, and on one shelf stacked some scrolls that look to be some kind of sheepskin or papyrus. Whatever it is, it's not paper. Finally, there are indecipherable chalk patterns and symbols filling every available space on the wall. Even the two sliding blackboards are covered in strange, unreadable scribblings. Just looking at them is making Koji dizzy.
見るんじゃない。
Ryoko snaps at him.
いいか、ここから動くな。絶対に何かに触ったりするな。目を引くようなものがあっても見つめたりしちゃいけない。
Not Tanbo. Ogai is into some really weird stuff. Like, you know, literally like forbidden artifacts. Like forbidden artifacts and the occult.
まずいと思ったらすぐに目をそらして自分の靴を見ろ。わかった。
Ryoko switches her lights fluorescent runners on, and sets it on a nearby table where it can illuminate the whole room. She then holsters her shotgun, only to pull out even more confusing set of tools, a digital camera, and a can of spray paint. She gives the can in her left hand a good shake, switches the camera in her right hand on, and steps up to the blackboard while looking at the camera's side-mounted screen. After recording one set of symbols, she covers it with a thick layer of paint, then moves on to the next.
先生。
レッスン1。妙な図形やラテン語の文章とかは絶対に読むな。見つめるな。
What is wrong with lingua latina? What's wrong with lingua latina?
機械の目で記録しておいて、後で注意深く調べればいい。現物はその場で塗りつぶすか何かして破壊しろ。
I need to learn how to speak Latin. Like, I can read Latin and understand it decently well still, even after 5 years. I just need to, you know, relearn some stuff just so that I could be not as rusty. And actually learn how to speak it, because I never learned how to speak Latin. Now that she mentions it, Koji realizes that she's only looking at the screen of her camera. Even then, only in short glimpses, and never directly at any of the drawings. He understands what she's saying, but it still doesn't make any sense.
一体どういう。
ここまで深入りしたんなら工学のために黙って聞いておけ。あと水晶球とか鏡の類も危ない。下手に壊すとやぶ蛇になったりするから、とりあえず布でもかぶせるかペンキを浴びせて封印しろ。
Koji begins to fear that this doctor might be even crazier than Fuminori. Despite the burst of energy he received from the vodka, Koji is still exhausted from his night in the well. The fear is affecting his body, making him dizzy and nauseous. Soon, the walls are covered in black paint, and the stale air is thick with the smell of turpentine.
とりあえずこんなところか。
Ryoko says with relief, then tosses the empty can aside and puts away her video camera.
オーガイって人はどうなったんです。
Koji asks, supporting himself against a nearby table.
ああ、そこにいたよ。
What? Without stopping her examination of the papers on the writing table, Ryoko points nonchalantly to a Chinese-style screen standing in one corner of the room. Is he dead? Is he just dead? He was there. Her clinical choice of tense makes her meaning instantly obvious. He's dead. He's dead. The urge to see for himself is irresistible. Koji staggers across the room to the screen, taking the utmost care not to look at the scaly octopus thing that is painted on it. Behind the screen is a large easy chair. Although he's never met the man before, Koji is fairly certain that the person sitting in it is Ogai Masahiko. Oh, he's really decomposed! Holy shit! Oh my god! He really decomposed! Ogai's corpse must have shrunk significantly while drying in this sealed chamber. The body is barely the size of a child's, with only the business suit hanging from the bones offering any hint of Ogai's former stature. His empty eyes, sockets, and wide-open jaw are filled with darkness, the same darkness that surrounded Koji at the bottom of the well. Compared to those gaping voids, the tiny hole in Ogai's right temple is almost a mirror. The revolver... Oh, he shot himself. The revolver that he presumably used to kill himself is still clenched in his dangling right hand. It looks like a child's toy compared to Ryoko's shotgun. Ryoko must have noticed Ogai's corpse while she was spray painting the walls, and still she kept working without batting an eyelash. Impressive, though not exactly surprising after what he's been through. It's getting difficult to remember the last time he spoke to someone sane. But if not for her, Koji reminds himself with a bitter smirk, he would have ended up joining this mummified corpse here, and no one would have ever found him. Koji's vision suddenly dims. He's pushed himself too hard, and Spritus vodka can't help him anymore. Spritus vodka. I've not heard of this vodka type. Huh. Like, obviously I can't really drink this because I can't drink alcohol. At the same time, though, I'm very curious, at least by the smell of it. The problem is I don't even know if a drop would be bad. Basically, due to medical reasons, I can't drink alcohol, but I'm like, huh. I'm very curious by what it tastes like, but I don't even know if the drop of it would be harmful. I mean, it's just one drop, but it's 190 proof. That's for another day for me to figure out whether or not it's dangerous for me. Well, obviously, if I drink more than, like, maybe a sip, it would be bad. Well, pretty much a shot is all I could really have of alcohol if I were to drink, and even then, I get a little dizzy after one shot. He collapses to the floor, unable to hang on to a slipping consciousness, and the last thing he sees are Ogai's Masahiko's gaping eye sockets staring at him. He could have ended up like Ogai. When he wakes, Koji finds himself lying on something dry and soft. A bed is a bed, he thinks to himself, even one that smells of mold and dusk, and especially after sleeping in cold mud all night. There are no lights hanging from the ceiling, but the soft, warm light of a lamp fills the room. Simple furnishings, non-existent decor. Koji realizes that he's in Ogai's cabin, in the bedroom that he searched before Fuminori pushed him into the well. Ryoko is sitting in a chair against the wall, her expression blank as she studies the pile of documents on the table in front of her. She must have brought them up from Ogai's underground lab. She turns a page, then takes a bite from the sandwich in her free hand. Without looking up from the files, she gestures towards the convenience store bag sitting on the nightstand. Koji can't imagine that a woman, even a woman like Ryoko, could have climbed out of the well with him on her back. Ryoko mutters, taking care not to let the explanation interfere with her reading or eating. I mean, he was dealing with, like, literal, like, occult things that are dangerous to even look at. Having finished her sandwich, Ryoko picks up some unsorted papers with her free hand and waves them in the air.
世界中の研究者が誰もかも学会で演壇に上ってリサイタルをやりたがるわけじゃないのさ。自分一人が秘密に通じて、最後には自分のしたいもろとも秘密の墓穴にしまい込んで満足するような、そういう変態野郎もいるんだよ。
Koji still hasn't the slightest idea on what Ogai's secret might have been. From what Ryoko has said in that tunnel, however, he can guess that Fuminori is somehow involved. Koji asks desperately, no longer caring who he gets answers from.
地下の死体と文則と一体どういう関係があるんです？先生は一体何を追いかけてるんです？
今それを調べてるところだよ。
Ryoko replies coldly, as though Koji's concerns are none of hers.
私が咲坂君から聞いたところによると、彼はオーガイの親族から調査を頼まれているという話だった。
ええ、それは俺も聞いてます。
ん？そうか、一貫してるんだな。
Ryoko pulls several sheets of loose leaf paper from a different file.
だがオーガイに血縁者はいない。私は咲坂君が嘘をついているものとばかり思っていた。だが、もう一つの可能性を考えるべきだった。彼はオーガイの親族を名乗る何者かにそそのかされていたのかもしれない。
Sorry about that, everyone. I accidentally clicked. Ryoko pauses, then looks sidelong at Koji.
サヤという名前に 心当たりは。
さや。いいえ、誰なんですか？
さて誰なのか何なのか、読めば読むほどわからなくなっていく。
She is uncovering the Eldritch horror. She sighs bitterly, then returns her attention to the papers in her hand.
間違いなく言えるのは、そいつがオーガイの研究の核にあるものらしいということだけだ。もし咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら、彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいるということになる。
You don't have to say that twice. The icy certainty in Ryoko's voice sends a chill down Koji's spine.
だとしたらどうするつもりなんです、文則を。
He has to ask, even though he already knows the answer.
さっきも言ったよね。1年前の私も手元に銃を持ってればってどれだけ後悔したか知れないんだ。
Ryoko replies, smirking at the tension in Koji's voice.
もう二度と後悔するつもりはない。
俺が警察に行けば済むことです。
Ryoko doesn't respond, as though she didn't even hear what Koji just said.
文則がやったことは殺人未遂です。俺が訴えればあいつは犯罪者として。
Koji continues persistently.
目撃者は、物証は、咲坂君が君を殺す動機は。
Ryoko cuts him off harshly.
なあ、トノ君。君は警察の仕事についてひどく勘違いしている。彼らの職分は正義を貫くことでも、市民の安全を守ることでもない。
Is to get a paycheck.
そんな。
不条理な物事について、きちんと条理に沿った体裁を整える。
Maybe I had a bit more of a pessimistic answer.
彼らの思考はいつだってより理解しやすい方、より説明しやすい方に傾いていく。それこそ水が低い方へ低い方へと流れていくように。事実がどうあろうと彼らには興味ない。彼らが感知するところではないんだよ。小説より奇なる事実なんてものは。
そこまで決めつけることないでしょう。話してみなければ分かりませんよ。
そう、わからない。
Ryoko
そこが問
states
題だ。
as she pulls out another sandwich out of the bag. She hasn't spared Koji a second glance since looking at him earlier. Even while talking, her attention is always focused on the papers in front of her.
君が錯乱した親友の手で井戸に落とされたと主張する。すると、警察はあと2つばかり真実の候補を用意するだろう。
Huh.
君
I
が
don't think it's supposed to rain
狂言
today,
自
though.
殺で親友を陥れようとしてるとか。
Sorry, really unrelated to what I'm doing right now.
あるいはもっとシンプルに、事故で井戸に落ちた君が錯乱して親友を疑ってるとか。この3案のどれかが捜査っていうレースで勝ちを競うわけだ。勝ち馬は誰にもわからない。こんな博打に君は寝台潰すまでかける気かい？
Koji has no response. Can he really explain with cold, clear logic what drove Fuminori to do what he did? How can he convince anyone else when he doesn't even understand it himself?
そして一番の問題は、
Ryoko says calmly, cutting into Koji's thoughts.
君がそういうランチキ騒ぎに手こずっている隙に、咲坂文則を追い詰めるチャンスを逃すことだよ。身辺で火の手が上がれば、彼は手遅れになる前にさっさと姿をくらますだろう。そうやってまた万事が振り出しに戻る。
She pauses to take a bite of her sandwich before finishing.
私がオーガイを取り逃がしたようにね。
A heavy silence falls upon them, with only the soft rustle of pages turning in Ryoko's hands to mark the passage of time.
教えてくださいよ、先生。
Koji says, his hushed voice breaking through the quiet.
あなたが警察を差し置いてまで処刑しようなんて思うほど、そこまで許しがたいことって何なんです？オーガイって人はあの地下室で何をやってたんですか？
It's obviously something otherworldly. Once again, Ryoko ignores Koji's question. This time, however, Koji doesn't back down. His silent glare demands her attention as she pours through the documents before her. After some time, Ryoko rearranges the papers in her hands and sets them aside, as though having come to some conclusion. She then turns her chair to face Koji for the first time since he awoke.
なあ、殿君。
Her hard stare belies the calmness of her voice.
君はここいら辺で降りた方がいい。ナスカ日光の温泉でゆっくり羽を伸ばして、何もかも忘れる気になってから東京に戻ってきなさい。
忘れろと。
Koji feels anger rise within him.
近江は俺の恋人でした。文則は俺の親友でした。それを忘れろと。
そうだ、忘れろ。これは提案じゃない。警告だ。
Ryoko replies, quickly rebuffing Koji's anger.
今まではどうであれ。これからの君の人生に、その二人は一切関わりを持たないだろう。断言してもいい。
What are you doing? Do you want to get up on your tree? Want to get up on your tree? I'm gonna see if I could finish this chapter before Tom goes to bed. Because whenever he goes to bed, he wants someone to tuck him in. Tom, you can go to bed right here. I can pet you. Yeah. Oh no, he doesn't want to sleep here. Oh no. All right, Tom. I need to finish this chapter first, and then I'll take you to bed, little boy. Oh. All right. See you, Tom. Are you leaving? All right. Yep. Go through the curtain. I'll tuck him in a second. Come on, Tom. He doesn't know how to go through the curtain, does he? Do you need help? Sir, do you need help? No, you got it. There you go. Alright, let's get back to reading. Sorry about that. Yeah, Tom sometimes likes it when someone tucks him in when he goes to bed. So, yeah, he was meowing at me because he wanted me to do it. He'll be fine for like another 10 minutes.
じゃあつくばは。
Koji shouts, unable to control himself.
彼女はどうなる？あの子は電話口で俺に助けを求めてた。どこかでひどい目に遭わされてたんだ。
そりゃ何十時間前の話かね。私が君を助けてから何時間経ったと思う？そうでなければ、井戸の中の君があと何時間持ったと思う？
She shakes her head.
彼女はとっくに死んでるだろう。誰もが君ほど幸運だなんて思わない方がいい。
As she declared coldly.
あんたは。
Koji growls, unable to suppress his anger.
あの井戸で俺の死体を見つけても、あんた、なんとも思わなかったんだろうな。
20-year-old learns the cruel reality of the universe.
そりゃ覚悟してたからね。まさか生きてるとは思わなかったよ。
Ryoko says with a shrug, unfazed by Koji's ire. She is kind of breaking her Hippocratic oath, isn't she? Well, no, technically not, because she's not, saying that she wouldn't save him or wouldn't treat him. It is futile to argue with this woman, Koji realizes. Her values are fundamentally different from his own. Nothing he can say will ever move her. Koji gets out of bed and stands on shaky legs. Technically, he is a stranger to Ryoko, so that kind of makes sense.
どのくらい俺は寝てたんです。
ざっと半日ばかり。消耗した後速やかに休息が取れるってのは羨ましいね。若いうちだけだよ。そういう無茶が効くのは。
Koji looks at his watch and sees that it's 4 in the morning, which means that it was already early evening when Ryoko rescued him. He can't believe that he survived in that well for almost 2 days. Now that the gaps in his memory have been filled and his sense of time has returned, he realizes that it's already Sunday morning. Ryoko's right. A lot of time has passed since he spoke to Yo on the phone. Koji grabs a sports drink and 2 jelly packs from the bag of food that Ryoko brought, then heads for the door. His legs are still a little unsteady, but he can still compensate for that with sheer willpower.
念のため聞かせてもらうが、どこに行くつもりだい？
東京へ。
Koji replies brusquely. His tone as hard as hers.
つくばようはまだ間に合うかもしれない。彼女を助けに行きます。
At this point, you might just have to mercy her.
人の話を聞かないやつだね。
You're gonna have to mercy kill her.
聞く耳持たないのはお互い様でしょう。
Koji is expecting Ryoko to watch him go with that cold, mocking smile of hers. Instead, however, she hides heavily and rests her jaw in her hands.
もう少し待つ気はないか。こいつのどこかに。
She thrusts her chin at the mountain of papers in front of her.
オーガイがサヤと名付けたものが何だったのか、答えが隠されてるはずだ。そいつを突き止めて、ちゃんと対策を講じてから動くべきだと私は思う。
つくばが死んでると決めてかかってるあんたなら、当然そう思うでしょうね。
In truth, Koji is extremely uneasy about going it alone. At the same time, however, he knows he mustn't depend on Ryoko. She's made it clear that she doesn't care about saving lives. Teaming up with her will only make it more difficult to salvage something, anything, out of this nightmare. What about stopping Fuminori and Saya before it gets, before it involves other people?
殿くん。
Ryoko calls out just before Koji steps out the door.
仮にも一度は殺されかかってるんだ。もう二度と殺されるな。
She picks something up from the table and tosses it to Koji. When Koji catches it, he feels the solid weight fill his hand.
これは
Ogai's revolver. Koji stares at the menacing shape of the cold metal. It's a revolver, the same one that was clenched in Ogai's skeletal fist.
あと4発入ってる。安全装置はない。引き金を引くだけで弾が出る。どこでどう使うかは君の判断に任せるよ。
If Koji were his usual cautious self, he would not hesitate to reject the dangerous offering. The only time you truly need a gun is when all hope is lost. He'd prefer not to fight a losing war. And yet, without even knowing it, Koji has already set foot into Ryoko's world, choosing instinct over reason. He accepts the small but deadly weapon and stuffs it into his pocket. There is no question that Koji intends to save Yo and bring Fuminori to answer for his crimes. In the back of his mind, however, he can hear the footsteps of Ruin approaching. He should have stayed with Ryoko. He should have waited. Oh man. Oh man. He's gearing up to fight Fuminori, I think. When he steps out of the cabin's front door, Koji shivers as the wind tears into his skin. To his surprise, the outside air is even colder than the mud at the bottom of the well. Perhaps the cramped space mitigated this cold somewhat. If he had been exposed to this chill all night long, he would have surely frozen to death. Koji finds 2 cars parked in the yard. The small car next to it must be Ryoko's. When he sits behind the wheel of his car, he gets some relief from the feeling that he has taken the first step, however small, back into his world. He sips the sports drink, wetting his parched throat, then washes down some jelly. His stomach rebels at the sudden influx of food after 36 hours on empty, but he manages to force down the urge to vomit. Koji needs the energy, no matter how hard it is. He must regain enough stamina to overcome the challenges ahead. After forcing down as much food as he can handle, Koji leans back in his seat and takes a short break. When he begins to feel like himself again, he reaches into the back seat and pulls a spare cell phone out of his bag. He never expected that carrying 2 phones would be such a stroke of luck. Why do you have a second phone? Like, I get maybe having a spare, but why do you have a spare phone, Koji? As he calls up Fuminori's number and prepares to hit send, Koji is overcome by a flood of emotion. Rage, despair, sorrow, pity. He is unable to decide what to feel toward his friend. However, there is no time to dwell on the past. Every second lost diminishes the chance of saving Omi and Yo. Koji refuses to consider that it may already be too late. He steels himself and presses the button, then holds the phone to his ear as it rings. The shrill sound seems to go on for longer than it ever has in his life. Right now, Fuminori's phone must be displaying the name of the caller. Koji wonders what his reaction will be when he sees it. The call goes through. In the silence on the other end of the phone, Koji senses surprise, apprehension, and dark fury. Feeling slightly gratified, Koji delivers the first jab.
よう、そんなに意外か、死人からの電話は。
驚いたね。どうやって。
As Koji is about to answer, an idea suddenly comes to him.
井戸の底に仕掛けがあったのさ。
Koji says,
地下の隠し部屋に行くためのな。
a plan forming rapidly in his mind. He pauses to let that sink in. Then, with satisfaction filling his voice, he says,
会えたぜ。大貝正彦と。
Fuminori's gas tells Koji that the advantage is his. Keeping his voice bold, he decides to further exaggerate the truth.
何もかも分かった。サヤってやつのことも全部。お前たちは終わりだよ、フミノリ。
Hopefully this doesn't backfire.
何もかもバラしてやる。ところ構わずにぶちまけてやる。証拠はちゃんと揃ってるからな。
It's obvious from Fuminori's tone that rage has overwhelmed his reason. Koji's bluff is working perfectly. His victory is tainted, however, as Fuminori's response to the name Saya brings a cry of anguish from the corner of his heart that still wants to believe his friend can be saved.
咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら。
Ryoko's words play back in his head, sounding even colder than before.
彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいる。
He mustn't allow emotion to sway him.
海のり、近江と筑波はどこだ？
Koji suddenly switches topics, trying to keep Fuminori off balance. It all comes down to this.
俺にだって情けはある。お前の出方次第では考えんでもない。お前がこれ以上誰も傷つけないというのなら、俺にしたことは忘れてやる。この別荘で見つけたことも。俺だってこれ以上、お前とサヤに関わり合いを持つのは願い下げなんだ。
Ooh, about
近江
that.
とさえ無事に戻ればいい。
Ooh. Let's see how Koji responds to what happened.
海とようね。
Fuminori's voice trails off. He's obviously trying to decide how far Koji can be trusted, and whether there's room for negotiation. Fuminori has been called out, and now it's time for him to show his hand.
海のことは本当に知らない。彼女は僕の家まで来ていない。でもよう。
Fuminori pauses, then gives a knowing chuckle that sends chills up Koji's spine.
ようはどうだかな。
Ugh, you're disgusting, Fuminori.
お前のところにいるんだな。
Koji is relieved to learn Yo's location, and that she is, at least, still alive. At the same time, however, he remembers that horrifying phone call. It is clear now that Fuminori played some part of Yo's suffering. Had she already fallen into his trap back then? What has happened to her? How is she being treated?
彼女はね、念願かなってようやく僕の持ち物になったんだよ。お前と近江のお膳立ても
Fuck
組を結んだわ
you.
けだな。
Fuck you, Fuminori says with venomous sarcasm. Koji feels despair settle over his soul. How much lower would this man go? Must Fuminori seek out and destroy every memory of the friendship they once shared?
つくばを解放しろ。彼女の安全を確認したらお前らについての証拠を破棄してやる。
信用できるか、そっちが先に。
お前に選択の余地を与えるつもりはないよ、文則。
Koji instinctively realizes that it's dangerous to push his bluff any further.
後でまた連絡する。それまでによく考えておけ。
He hangs up without waiting for a response. Fuminori doesn't know that Koji is still at the cabin in Tochigi. Right now, he's probably worrying about whether Koji will show up in 1 hour or 1 minute. Koji hopes that he'll be able to take advantage of Fuminori's confusion. 3 hours. That's how long it will take to race all the way back to Tokyo. Koji is afraid that his body won't carry him through such a long drive. His mind is clear, but his limbs still feel half asleep, like they were weighed down with lead. Although he knows he has to stay resolute, Koji still longs for the peace he had just a few days ago, when life or death struggles were the furthest thing from his mind. Back then, he could never have imagined himself fighting to rescue a friend from the clutches of a madman. With each passing moment, he feels himself becoming less like the person he was. When all this is over, will he be able to return to his old life? Definitely not. Or will this change continue until it has consumed him utterly? Probably the latter. Time is against him. Every second that passes is wasted. Even so, he decides to allow himself just 5 minutes of weakness. For exactly 5 minutes, he leans against the steering wheel and cries. And when his tears have run dry and his heart is calm, Koji starts up his car and drives away. Oh shit. And now we get Fuminori's perspective. Next time though, because I do need to tuck in my cat for his bedtime. Yes, I'm going to be tucking in my cat right about now actually. So I will be ending off today's video right here.
Okay.